Hi, Kevin Dykstra, Vice President of Consulting Services with Cognigen and Simulations Plus. Really happy to be here today. We're going to talk primarily today about services. That is, I am going to talk primarily about services, and we'll turn things over to Brett Howell and John DeBella to speak more to the software and consortium-based offerings. But one of the things that's really clear is there's a number of questions that drug developers need to address as they're developing drugs. The first being what you're going to study, that is, so lead selection, what it's supposed to do and how it's supposed to interact with the physiology, which is the pharmacology. The next question is how it gets into the physiological system and where it goes and what organs it affects as it's there. So the ADME and DMPK, drug metabolism and pharmacokinetics question. And then there's a question of how do we actually give it? So do we give it daily? Do we need to give it twice daily? Is it a drug that's more appropriate to be given monthly? And then of course the question of dose comes up. And these are all intimately related with formulation, pharmacokinetics, and of course, pharmacodynamics. So this kind of gets us to the next place, which is about what good a particular drug candidate might do once it's in the system. So the notion of clinical efficacy and how that relates to the pharmacology and also to the treatment regimen and so forth. And then finally, there's not really any drugs that are available or can be conceived that don't have some downside effects on safety. And similar to the notion of clinical efficacy, the safety effects are also related to the dose. So there's certainly a trade-off between efficacy and safety that we need to take into account. And this, of course, leads us to an overall sort of a gestalt catch-all of, what are the outcomes of the drug development effort. How well we do in this regard is really, first of all, denoted by regulatory success. And in the early phase of clinical development, this is related to being able to advance in the clinical trial program and the clinical development program. Efficiency is critical because for a drug that may have billions of dollars annually in revenue, every single day that we are delayed getting to the market is worth millions of dollars. So the efficiency and the speed with which we're able to accomplish our program's goals is really critical. And then, of course, the reason why we're all doing this is to benefit patients. For a drug that's going to be successful, the sooner we can get it to the marketplace and make it available to patients, the better. The better we're able to optimize the treatment regimens for particular patient populations is something that will, also go to benefit patients. So there's any number of different ways in which patients benefit by us being good at our jobs. And then finally, the reason that businesses are in it is for commercial success. So clearly, finding the right indication and the right dose for a drug can certainly be the difference between a failed program and one that will lead to a financially successful enterprise. So one of the things that we're able to say is that the concept behind Simulations Plus is that we really put things all together. So we start off with chem informatics, and this really impacts lead selection, some aspects of the ADME and DMPK parts. So basically just based on the chemical properties of the particular drug, we can help to find the best molecule to address your particular pharmacology. Once you know what you're studying, then some of our other offerings can come into play, specifically with respect to physiologically based pharmacokinetics, to understand where your drug is going and how it gets there. And then in the next idea is this notion of quantitative systems pharmacology and quantitative systems toxicology, to understand at a very detailed level the pharmacology of your drug and the way in which it interacts with the system's physiology. And it can get to, the notions of whether or not the proposed pharmacology for your particular drug has even the potential of being a meaningful contributor to clinical efficacy. And QSP and PBPK all kind of start to get to the treatment regimen aspects, which is tackled even more in detail with the discipline of pharmacometrics. So the notion of evaluating different treatment regimens, figuring out the relationship between the pharmacology and the pharmacokinetics and clinical efficacy, and then certainly balancing the safety aspects. These are all the province of pharmacometric analysis. So one of the things that we can pride ourselves on is because we have all of these areas of expertise under a single virtual roof, we can offer really good collaboration among our different scientists and craft integrated and innovative solutions to meet the particular needs of your program. From a business perspective, we can do things really efficiently. We have integrated legal documentation and contracts that allow you to interact with any of our scientists with a single set of documents, master services agreements and confidentiality agreements and so forth. So the notion is basically we have the solutions and the people to address your drug development questions. So from a services perspective, what's it like to work with us? So what's really critical for us is really the relationships that we build with our clients. It's in many ways, working with a service organization such as ours represents quite a commitment on the client side. And we like to think that we can deliver a similar kind of a commitment to the collaboration that we have. The reality is although each of the scientists that we work with, we are experts in our own field, but we rely on the client to provide the expertise about their own drug and the knowledge of their own pharmacology and the clinical situation and a variety of other things that are related to this. So the collaboration is really critical. We really enjoy the regular interactions with our clients to make sure that to show off what it is that we're doing, but also to ensure that what we are doing is relevant to the client. We also like to make sure that our clientele understands what it is we're doing, and that we can take the opportunity to provide updates and keep the communication going, so there's no surprises with respect to how much we're getting done and when it might be ready. We truly believe that there's a significant synergy that comes from the areas of expertise that are in slightly different areas. So none of us really knows enough to accomplish the entire thing. And I personally can attest to the fact that through collaboration, we almost always get to a solution or a set of models or strategies that is much better and greater than the sum of the individual parts. So in sum, we certainly welcome the involvement, participation, and input from stakeholders who may not be directly involved in modeling and simulation, and in many cases don't love models and simulations quite as much as we do. We've been at this for a long time. Simulations Plus, the parent organization, was founded in about 1995. Cognigen has been around since 1992, so we're well on towards 25 to 30 years of work in these areas. DILIsym came on the scene somewhat earlier, but nonetheless, it is fair to say that if a drug company has been working in a particular disease area, then we probably have done some work in that area as well. And that covers oncology, CNS diseases, antivirals and anti-infectives, metabolic diseases such as diabetes and obesity, as well as tailoring things to particular patient populations such as pediatrics. We have well-established quality management and a successful client audit history. So we've been audited by our clients many times, never yet by a regulatory agency, knock wood. and really have been able to navigate those audits quite successfully. We also have a very substantial investment in our systems infrastructure. So basically what this does is ensures that whatever data it is that you send us is safe and is also readily available to our folks who need to use it. So we have a fully validated private cloud. In the case of the pharmacometric side, we have well on 200 cores that are available to for computational work, and among the other service offerings, we have similar computational resources that are available. Well protected from both a security and also power supply and redundancy perspective. So this is something that we can certainly offer. In the case of our pharmacometrics offerings, we also have a very nice interactive facility whereby clients can interact directly with the analysis results through our Kiwi system and be able to, and Vantage systems, to be able to interrogate the results directly. And so with that, I think that's a reasonable start of an overview to our offerings. And with that, I will turn things over to Brett and/or John. Brett, I think we were planning to have you go next, unless John's available now. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Maybe John can jump in and then I'll finish off.
That's great.
Yeah, sounds good, guys. Give me 1 second here. Let me share my screen. You'd think after a day of moderating a session, I'd have this down pat.
We can see your screen, John. Looks good.
Thank you very much, Arlene. And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. And thank you, Kevin. What I'm planning to do here over the next few minutes is really build off of what you just presented on strategic services and really discuss how we are working with a growing number of companies to offer kind of a holistic package to complement the standard ways in which we supply our software specifically today. Really helping companies kind of reimagine their research processes by working together to advance modeling and simulation sciences, and more importantly, customizing the tools and the toolkits so that they meet our customers' exacting specifications. And hopefully you'll walk away after I've gone through these next few slides better appreciating how Simulations Plus should really be thought of as more than just a simple vendor and more like a trusted partner that can help you realize all of your company's goals today and really in the future. So a major theme over these 2 days so far at MIDD Plus 2021, I think is a question that was posed at the opening session yesterday. And that is, how can or really how should my organization change our R&D processes to reflect the availability of modeling and simulation tools and techniques? And a follow-on to that question may be, are there ways in which I can drive modeling and simulation forward according to my specific research needs and those specifications talked about earlier, and have access to experts at my fingertips to help move things along? And the answer is yes. So this slide here is something that we've used quite often over the years, and it's really reflecting the vision that we are going to be taking our software tools over the course of the next few years and beyond. And that is really marrying different modeling technologies, machine learning, physiologically based biopharmaceutics modeling, PBBM and PBPK, QST and QSP, and pharmacometrics. And you see at the bottom of this slide here that we are doing our best to realize this vision by making substantial investments year over year to drive things forward, to not only advance science within these individual technologies, but also integrating them in a way that really makes sense, streamlining workflows and processes going from chemical structure through predictions in human populations. We not only reinvest a substantial portion of our own revenues back into software R&D each year, but we also receive additional funding from collaboration partners. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the ways in which we've been engaging with these partners over the years. Today, we currently have around 12 to 15 active software R&D collaborations in place. And you see some of these highlighted here on this slide. Those that are around the jacked up simulation SAM, we call him, are collaborations in place specific to the GastroPlus PBBM, PBPK platform. And one of the things that I'd like to highlight is we today have active grants in place with the FDA on 3 different projects, advancing science and validating approaches for drugs delivered through the eye, through the oral cavity system, and through the skin. And we've been able to complement these FDA collaborations with partnerships with a number of different pharmaceutical companies and also consortiums like Cosmetics Europe. The collaborations, though, are not limited to just GastroPlus. And you see on the right that we've been successful in engaging with several companies on advancing science for predicting drug-induced kidney injury, for predicting efficacy for therapeutics for pulmonary fibrosis, for continuing to formalize that marriage between machine learning and PBPK, the high throughput PBPK simulations, and then also high throughput non-compartmental data analyses as well, where not only are we making, again, improvements to the science, but in many cases, we're really working with the scientific teams and the IT groups to improve the softwares and design them in such a way that they fit seamlessly into the various workflows and processes already in place at these companies. Now, how does a typical software R&D collaboration work? What are the roles and the responsibilities? From the sponsor side, when we engage, in early stages and talk through what may be a project of mutual interest, we are hoping and expecting our sponsor partner to provide scientific guidance based upon their own subject knowledge. We by no means consider ourselves to know everything under the sun, and we're going to rely very heavily on the expertise that can be provided by the scientists at these different organizations. We're also going to be heavily dependent on the data that can be made available for validating and verifying some of the new approaches that we're developing. And that data to us is gold. It's really one of the most important pieces to any collaboration in which we engage. We're obviously going to be looking for the sponsor partner as we prepare beta versions of the software for testing to provide a lot of feedback. We want to make sure that this is a tool that becomes part of your R&D SOP. And so are you comfortable with the user experience, the GUI design, the workflows? Is your IT department comfortable with how the software is going to be deployed for users around the world? We do, in many cases, look to get funding for dedicated FTEs to help prioritize and accelerate development. And in many cases, we're also interested in doing some cost sharing to bring on some additional resources, for example, postdocs, to help advance some of the validation and verification work. And then, of course, we very much believe in open science and getting assistance from our sponsor partners to prepare draft manuscripts for publication. Getting some of this work out into the public domain is very important for us. What our partners can expect back in return is highly skilled project management, scientific expertise, of course, building up the mathematical models. We've got some of the world's best mechanistic absorption, physiologically based biopharmaceutics and PBPK modelers around. And we can use and leverage that expertise to really make good advancements. We've obviously got teams of software programmers in place as well that will be able to very efficiently code those improvements into the software tools, provide you with beta versions for testing. One somewhat underrated aspect to the collaborations is that because we are working with your data to build up these models and to do the validation work, you get those GastroPlus models and those support files or the ADMET predictor model files for your own use internally. So you've got a baseline model in place for your drug molecules that you're then going to be able to leverage and take in any direction you need to as the molecules are progressing through development. And then we will also be providing assistance with drafting up those manuscripts, because that is something, again, of high interest to us. And finally, just to kind of talk about the overall benefits, I think it needs to be appreciated that it is not just simply a win-win scenario in these collaborations, but rather a win-win-win. We're all winners. The sponsor is going to be receiving customized functionality within a commercially qualified and maintained software platform. And I can't stress this enough. Nowhere else in the world are you going to be able to work with a company that will, in a one-on-one setting, make updates to something that is commercially validated, qualified, and supported, so that you know it'll be around for the long haul. These customization activities are going to be supported for years on end. As mentioned, you're going to have access to all of those compound model files that you can use and apply to any future questions which may come along. In many cases, you also get free licenses to some of the new features that have been added in. Really just cherry on top of this collaboration sundae. The publications that come out, and then the recognition from industry and regulatory agencies for advancing modeling and simulation sciences. For us, I mentioned earlier, data is gold. And having access to data that we can use to help build up and expand the coverage space of our models is super important. And if we can complement that with a little bit of funding and also getting access to our sponsors' internal expertise to support model development, well, all the better. We also have this ability to distribute the new functionality to other clients, with the important caveat that no data is ever shared. Our sponsor partners all control access to what they can and cannot allow publicly to be made available. But we will, under the spirit of open collaborations, want to make all of this new functionality available to the users worldwide. And then also for us, we have presentations and we have publications that describe and outline the modeling methodology and validation of the platforms and the improvements that were made. And finally, the third class of winners, which sometimes gets overlooked, is regulatory agencies and the industry at large. Now everybody will have the opportunity to benefit from access to innovative, validated science that is going to drive more efficient R&D and hopefully get medicines to patients faster and more cost effectively. So these are just some of the ways in which we have been currently engaging with companies, with regulatory agencies, and with other organizations over the years to help really drive a lot of the improvement to the software tools. And again, just to restate and emphasize, there are not many opportunities for companies to be able to do this one-on-one with software vendors like Simulations Plus, where these improvements and these advancements will be continuously supported and maintained for many, many years to come. Now happy to turn things over to Brett, who's going to talk a little bit about how we've been engaging with customers in research consortiums over the years. Dr. Howell.
Thank you very much, John. Let's see. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Kevin and John, for sharing with us and talking about our abilities in the consulting area and our funded collaborations on the software side. Excellent ways to partner with us at Simulations Plus, and we have a long history of working in those areas. And I wanted to share a third and unique way of working with us before we start to take some questions today. This really focuses in here on consortia. So, quantitative systems toxicology specifically is a mechanistic modeling method that focuses on the safety side of drug development. It is particularly well suited for collaboration. There's a lot of competition when it comes to a drug's effectiveness, to the selection of targets, to the evaluation of molecules versus competitors' molecules or therapeutics. But on the safety side, there's a relatively widespread agreement that we need to be working together. We need to be collaborating. And it was in that spirit that we, 10, 11 years ago, started the first safety-related consortium centered around the DILIsym platform to develop a model in this common setting. So I'll share a little bit about how you can join us and partner with us in that today and how we're expanding that to kidney. Again, you've heard throughout this conference our mechanistic modeling specialties at the Simulations Plus, and specifically at the DILIsym Services division of Simulations Plus. And we work in a number of areas focused on efficacy, but really we started and have worked for a long time now in the safety areas, and specifically focused on liver and kidney. So that would be our DILIsym platform here, you see with the denoted by the red liver, and our RENAsym platform, our newest safety platform focused on kidney. And so I'm going to focus in on these two platforms and really start with the DILIsym platform by introducing the DILIsym initiative. So this was a consortium that was started again 10 or 11 years ago. It's currently made up of the companies you see here on the slide. And a few others as well. And the structure for this is kind of unique. The companies sign up as members of this consortium through a membership agreement, and they contribute membership fees, and those fees allow us to maintain a staff to develop this platform, but not just to do software maintenance, software updates, but to also add new science into the platform and to really do research, sort of cutting edge research in this specific space with respect to drug-induced liver injury. And so there's a lot of benefits to that. Obviously, there's two sides to it. There are deliverables, and I'll talk more about those. But there's this community and this atmosphere of learning and collaboration, and it's afforded us a couple of things. One is an excellent scientific advisory board, sort of shown here, for the DILIsym initiative initially, that has been led by Dr. Paul Watkins, but has now 6 other excellent members who are experts in different areas of liver injury, immunology, etc. And those SAB members have helped to guide and steer what we do. But it's also been a great avenue for interactions with regulatory agencies. And in particular, this whole effort really started through a CRADA with the FDA. The FDA has been involved with this effort through ORICE fellowships and through membership on the SAB and through licensing of the platform. So this sort of aggregation of members together to form a formal body allows you to interact with regulatory agencies on another level. And we've been successful in doing that. And we've learned a lot from the scientists and the companies involved in terms of what they're really looking for with these safety platforms. What are the key questions that they need to address? So it's been a successful effort. One of the other crucial benefits of forming a consortium and being a member of a consortium is the sort of emphasis or focus on the dissemination of information. And you can see here just some of our publications and posters and things that we did in 2020. But there's been a steady stream of publications and presentations at meetings and that are public and available, really focus on the application that comes out of this kind of effort and helps to inform the entire community around what's being done, what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses of a particular platform like DILIsym, and how can it be applied. So the dissemination is a big benefit. In addition to sort of tangible software benefits, which I'll get to in just a moment from membership, there's also a lot of intangible benefits. And so, first of all, I want to focus on the meetings that we have as a consortium. So we meet every quarter. We present from our side the development updates, the things that we're doing, the things that we're testing, the ideas that we have for the software. But we also hear back from our members in terms of what they believe we should be doing or shouldn't be doing, or new areas that they've heard about. And sometimes they follow up after these meetings with, here's a paper you might want to look into, or here's an academic group you may want to contact and partner with. So there's really this great sort of networking, discussion, and exchange of information that occurs on a very regular basis. And joining a consortium gives you a chance to hook into that. It also gives us the forum, sort of the framework for having a very organized and specific and disciplined set of meetings to make that happen. The other thing that's nice about the sort of style of development is we have input from you as members on what we do next formally. So we actually have a formal voting process where each of the member companies gets a ballot, and they get an opportunity to say, I think A, B, and C should be in the software next year and not, D and E. And so there's this opportunity to direct formally where we're going and what we work on, which I think gives companies a lot of satisfaction and a lot of comfort knowing, hey, I have a voice. There's also a tangible side to joining a consortium like DILIsym, and that includes software benefits. So, for example, those who join the consortium, industry members, each company gets 2 global floating licenses to the DILIsym platform, which, in and of themselves would cover the cost of membership just for those licenses. But also, they get an add-on feature, which is called our high performance grid license, which allows for scalability up to an unlimited number of nodes to run your simulations and a simulation engine that you can deploy out to a local or a cloud-based cluster. So there's benefits and features that come along with membership, sort of like a package deal. There's a substantial discount on consulting. There are specific training hours thrown in as well. And then over this last year, we've most recently added the RENAsym platform, the RENAsym consortium, into the same membership agreement. So now all of these tangible software deliverables, all the intangible networking and voting benefits are all available for both platforms, both the DILIsym initiative and the RENAsym consortium. Both efforts are covered by one fee and one membership agreement. So it's an excellent, very good value, a 2-for-1 deal, I would say. And to talk a little bit more about this RENAsym effort, we've worked on liver for a long time, and we've been successful in that area. We've seen applications. We've in the regulatory space, in decision making within companies, and time again we got feedback. Why don't you think about kidney? Kidney's another key organ. And so we've done that now. We've started the initial development process and almost completed the first version through a grant funded effort. But now we're expanding out to a consortium to mimic and follow what we've done with DILIsym. And the nice thing is, again, we're afforded an excellent scientific advisory board through that effort. You can see our members here. They help direct and guide us in terms of the big picture and what's important clinically and what's important from drug development standpoint. And also, where can we look for the latest science? So we're excited to have them on board. That was a very recent formation of that board. And the RENASIM consortium, because it's brand new and it's just starting out, as opposed to our DILISIM initiative, which is longstanding, we'll be focused on some different areas. Anytime you're in the early phases of the development of a model or a product, and you're testing it out, you're adding new things, and you're kind of on at the beginning, there's a different focus. And so some of the things I just want to highlight that we'll be doing as part of the RENASIM consortium is helping define the context of use. We really look to our members to say, this is how we would need to use this product within the preclinical and clinical phases of drug development. Oversight is also very important in this early stages. Focus on this. You seem to be focusing on this instead of that. That kind of steering and oversight. Data inputs is a really important area, especially in the kidney, where in vitro models are difficult to find and to validate. So we look to work collaboratively on finding the right in vitro inputs to this sort of model. Sharing data is also important in this early stage, sharing data both for validation, but also related to basic science. And lastly, visibility. Right from the beginning of this effort with RENASIM, we want to give visibility to what we're doing, to what we hope the product will be able to do, the model will be able to do down the road, and so that we can start to build that trust and build those opportunities. So we are delighted now to offer the DILISIM and RENASIM membership sort of as a 2-in-1 tandem. We hope that you'll consider joining and partnering with us in this way, and receiving the many tangible and intangible benefits from doing that. Now, if you're more interested in pharmacology, efficacy, focusing on the diseases, we also have a number of QSP platforms as well. And, just want to mention briefly that, yes, we do offer licenses to those, so we can get those in your hands. It's not in a consortium style format like our QST products, but they are open. They are available for you to modify, to change the equations, to do all of those things, and really to get your hands dirty and go in there and model that disease and look at different treatments and options and compare to other compounds, look at combination therapies, all that good stuff. So these are available for licensing with more traditional software licensing agreements. And of course, with respect to all the products I've mentioned, with respect to our services across the company, as Kevin mentioned, we're always available to partner with you and do the work for you, if you don't have the bandwidth, through typically milestone-based consulting projects. So thank you very much, and I'll turn it over to you, Arlene, to see if we have any interesting questions to address today.
Great, thanks, Brett. Okay, let's see what we have in the panel chat. So Katja asks, I'm sold on the value of simulations, but we are a pre-funding startup company. Are you willing to find creative solutions? Now, it wasn't to any one of you particular, but John, let me start with you.
Okay, thank you, Arlene, and thank you, Katja, for the question. I think short answer is yes. Expanding on that a little bit, so we very much are committed to providing really good science available to all discovery and development scientists in our software tools and also through our consulting services. And I think we have a shared belief across all the business units that all companies should be able to benefit from having access to the best solutions possible. In the Simulations Plus division specifically, we do have specific programs in place with conditions that are tailored specifically to startups and incubator parks. And we'll be more than happy to have discussions on how you can access the tools through those programs. I might invite Kevin and/or Brett to also kind of comment on how they work with some of these smaller companies as well.
Well, I'm happy to take the baton and speak first and then hand it to Kevin. So again, short answer is yes, we are open to discussions when it comes to how we can partner best with smaller companies. I think that, beyond that level of response, there are a myriad of different opportunities and possibilities that I won't get into the details on here today. But I think most importantly, yes, we're committed to working with groups of all sizes and in different various phases of funding as well. It's not uncommon for companies of even of various sizes to be at different funding stages. So, contact us, let us sit down at the table together, and let's have a conversation about how we can work together and get our technology and our services in your hands. Kevin?
Yeah, I think what I'm going to say is going to rhyme with what John and Brett both suggested. I think we work really hard to be flexible to our clients' particular situations, whether it be working with you on a sort of as needed basis to provide relatively limited kinds of input, which a lot of times is what's needed. It's frequently true that you need a really good expert. You don't need a lot of their time, but you need somebody that really does know what you're talking about. So, we're happy to work with folks in that way. And I think with respect to the funding aspects, we can be a little bit flexible as well. So, great question. Thank you.
Okay, that brings up another question that came in through the DMs. We talk about our consulting services and products. Is this only for US-based businesses, or are we available at any time?
I'll take that one. I have a good joke. The sun never sets on the Simulations Plus empire. Basically, I think it's definitely, well, we have substantial business in the US. We also have substantial interaction with both the EU and Asian companies. So I would say that really we can meet you where you're at.
And that's a good joke, Kevin. And I will expand just a little bit and say that to help provide kind of local support, both from a business perspective and also from a scientific perspective. We also have a network of distributors in different territories around the world. And we're happy to make introductions to those folks. So not only do we have teams of experts worldwide, but we also have distribution channels in place as well that will help resolve, especially from an operational and or business perspective, any local flavors that may be in place.
Maybe one other point to make is our experience with regulatory bodies really across the globe. Of course, we work closely with the FDA, but we certainly have also authored submissions to EMA, the PMDA, and the various other national organizations. So I think really we have a ton of experience working globally.
That's a good mention. Brett, did you have something to add?
I was just going to wrap it up by saying, in summary, we are a global company. We are committed to supporting companies, in the Americas, EU, Asia, and we have done so for many years. So absolutely, we are not restricted to working with groups in the US.
All right, so in our final few minutes, let me invite you each to tell our audience, what do they do next after they've watched it, after they've attended the conference? What do we want them to do next? How do they follow up with you? Kevin?
Sure. Well, I'll leave it to John and Brett to talk about the software and consortium opportunities. With respect to the services aspects, I would say that you can most easily go to the info@ email address and email us with your questions and your situation. Usually when we start a conversation, it is most beneficial to have a confidentiality agreement in place because that really allows us to hear what your real issues are and for us not to talk generically. We're happy to talk about our capabilities, and we have a number of published examples of work that we've done for other clients. But honestly, those should be the conversation starting place. And it's really much more valuable when we can speak to you exactly about what it is that your needs are. Again, we we welcome the opportunity to do that. Truthfully, this is, that's one of the greatest fun aspects of my job is to have these initial conversations and start to identify what the approaches are to your particular development problems are. So, John, maybe you can talk about software a bit.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. On the software R&D front, no project is too big, no project is too small, and we welcome any and all. So I think similar to what Kevin said, it all starts with a conversation, and we're happy to set up a call at your convenience to walk through some ideas that you have, some ideas that we have, and see where we can settle in terms of driving some software development efforts forward. And these engagements can take place with companies that are currently utilizing the tools, and even those that are at the stages of kicking the tires right now. If you are at the stage of kicking the tires, we're happy to provide you with trial licenses to the software. I think I saw in the MIDD Plus lobby that there are some special offers for trial licenses available to attendees of the conference. And it's not just us throwing these evaluation licenses over to you and coming back 30 days later to see how things are going. We very much want to ensure that you're getting a positive experience from the testing that you're doing, and so we'll set up a number of calls to provide some basic training and get you pointed in the right direction. And then once you've gotten a better flavor for how the tools work, again, we can have those conversations about, how can it fit into my R&D process today, and what might be some things in which we can work on together to cement its place in your organization for years to come. Brett, how do they? What should they do if they want more information on the consortia?
Yeah, sure, John. Typically, a company will reach out to us and say, hey, we're interested in membership. And we're happy at that point to set up an introductory presentation. So in there, we can go to a little bit more detail in terms of the technical inclusions in the platforms, in terms of the benefits, in terms of the history. And then at that point, we're happy to take, oftentimes we'll take follow-up questions, detailed questions will pop up from the group of scientists who may be evaluating this membership opportunity. So once we go through that cycle, in many cases, that's when a company will decide to join. If you go through that process and decide, well, it's actually better for us to do a more of a traditional software licensing approach or a consulting opportunity, that happens a number of times as well. So it usually starts with and can start with an introductory presentation, which we're happy to do exclusively with your group. And anytime you want to reach out and let us know you're interested.
Great. Thank you, gentlemen. You have shown that we are not only efficient in our business, but efficient in our time for panel discussions. So with about 10 minutes left, if you guys want to say, what's been your favorite part, or what have you learned, or what are you looking forward to the rest of today's sessions? John, I'll start with you.
Well, I had the honor of moderating the preclinical track yesterday, 7 presentations. And I think for me, one of the big takeaways, and it's something that I'm going to talk more about during the closing session, is all that glitters is not gold. And what I mean by that is it's really interesting to see from the presentations I've attended so far, how much value these experts are placing on the initial review of the data itself. I know there are lots of other organizations around the world that will just take your data and start throwing a whole bunch of different models at it. And I think it's pretty refreshing that from what I've heard over the last day plus, is that it all starts with first a just really critical review of the data. What is the story that you're getting back from the raw data that's been collected itself? Once we have that story, once we've gotten some clues, that's when we then we proceed with some of these modeling and simulation activities. And so I think it's that's something that I found really refreshing over the course of the past day plus, and we'll talk a little bit more about at the closing session.
Great, looking forward to that. Kevin, what about you?
Yeah, so for me, one of the things that has been exciting about this particular conference is it's really a showcase for the breadth of the offerings and expertise that are here across the company, and also, you know, the illustration of how the different quantitative methodologies can all contribute to good drug development. One of the things that's most exciting for me is the opportunity to integrate across the different modalities. And that's actually something that I've experienced a number of times during my time here. And I think, you know, as you can start to see, there's a really rich array of ways that the different modalities can contribute to drug development. So for me, I think that's been the most exciting aspect of it.
Thank you, Kevin. And Brett, we'll end it with you.
Thank you, Arlene. Yeah, you know, I just coming into the session off the heels of the Women in Science and Award session, I thought that was a particularly excellent session. Some really good perspectives, good opportunities for learnings there, and a good reminder of the first of all, the excellent female leaders that we have within our company, and also you know, others as well who are receiving awards. So it was a great session. It was a little bit of a different twist on a scientific conference, something that was refreshing and great to see.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We'll go ahead and end our session here. You can find John DeBella at the closing session starting at 11:15 Eastern. And for now, you can exit the session, head back into the sessions tab to go on to the next talk. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye-bye.
Thank you.